Hey everyone, Big Willy here from Big Willy's Fab Shop. Today's episode is I may give a little bit more of a review on that QIDI Max 4 printer that I bought. And again, I bought that on Black Friday sale, and it took about a little over 2 months to get it. But in my last video, I did a little unboxing and kind of first test print. And from there, I have printed a little bit more on it and had a few more issues on the printer. And I'll kind of discuss what those issues were in this video and kind of my overall experience with the printer. And then I'll give kind of my updated thoughts on this printer. But anyways, let's get to it. Alright, so let's jump into the issues I had so far. I kind of had 8 unique issues. So far, most of them are software related. As many of you know, with QIDI is the initial release of the printers. There is some software development that is needed, and it is the same case on this Max 4 is they do need to work on the software more to have kind of overall a better user experience and for everything to actually work. So the first issue I had is the phone app crashing every time I tried to view the camera feed. I'll show a little image here of what keeps on happening, but pretty much every time I look at the camera feed, within a second or two, the app crashes. And this doesn't matter if I'm on different Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi or mobile data. It continues to crash. I have brought this up to QIDI, and they are working on trying to fix this in the next software release. The second issue I have is the QIDI box in the filament drying setting. Every time I try to select anything other than PLA, it keeps on defaulting back to PLA. Note that I actually figured out I left it continue on the setting that I initially selected, and visually it defaults to PLA, but the settings themselves are actually kept the same. So even though it says PLA at that certain temperature and time, that is actually incorrect. It's just a visual display error. Again, QIDI is working on that and hoping to fix that in the next software update. The next issue number 3, is it fails during the self-check as the chamber heating detection had failed. I worked with QIDI on this. They gave me some diagnostics to run, and my printer is operating as it should. The chamber heating is working. So basically they told me not to use that function until, again, they update the software. The next issue I had is the polar cooler tube getting pinched, following their directions on putting the reusable zip tie or fabric zip tie close to the extruder head to hold the Bowden tube comes into the printer. So I taped the Bowden tube from being able to come out. And now it's kind of just so I taped it, I shoved it in and taped it up. It lasts, but this is an issue I came across. Another issue is it doesn't actually pause on the M0 command, as I'll show here. Another thing I noticed on the Max 4 is when you slice your file and you come over here and you want to add a pause over on the right hand side, you normally just you move whatever layer you want to pause it at, you right click and hit pause. Well, because that's a normally M0 code, the Max 4 does not recognize that, and it keeps on printing, as I found out the hard way on a large print. It was supposed to pause towards the end so I can embed a magnet and a couple other parts and it just went ahead and finished it all. So then I tried to add a custom G code, again the same M0, and then for the heck of it, I tried a M25 custom code, and M25 is pause SD print. I just tested it out, and it does listen to M25. So if you want to pause, you're gonna have to add a custom G code of M25 instead of the M0. The sixth issue I had is it failed to pull the filament from the box due to it running at the end of the roll. That little twist kind of holds how they start wrapping the filament. That got stuck in the box, which it does on my bamboo, so I'm no surprise there. But what happened is it paused, but it turned the build plate heat off. And by the time I noticed that, the part's already let loose, and I failed my entire build plate. Even though I could have salvaged it and manually pulled the filament out, and then it would switch over automatically and continue the print. But when I caught it, it turned off the build plate. So that's kind of a little gripe I have. I'm thinking it's just a software glitch. I did in the settings turn the sleep mode to never. I don't know if that's just the screen sleep mode, or if that's actually, if it goes to sleep, does it actually turn off all the heating elements? I'm not sure there. The seventh issue I have is the Bowden tube. It keeps on getting pinched. So I'll jump to what I'm trying to talk about here. So what I've done to kind of solve this issue of this Bowden tube getting pinched is actually where the Bowden tube comes out of the back of the machine. I taped it so the slack couldn't push out on the back side of the machine, so that slack had to stay around the chain link itself, and that seemed to fix the issue. So note, tape your back of your Bowden tube so the slack didn't push out of the back side of the machine. And then my last issue, I kind of noticed, not really issue, it saved itself, but when I was printing the PA6 carbon fiber, you want a heated chamber, which it did start heating the chamber to 55 degrees. It started printing. I left, and then I viewed it on my phone, and on the phone it said it turned off the chamber heat. I had it set at 55. The temperature was showing 45 degrees Celsius. So on my phone I bumped it back up to 50 degrees Celsius, and then a few minutes later, or a half an hour later, I rechecked it, and then it bumped back up to 55 where it originally set. So I don't know why it turned off and then it turned back on halfway through the print. Luckily I caught it and I saved it. Now if I didn't catch it, it might have been fine, and then also it might have just been the phone app glitching out. Again, it seems like a software bug. So that's kind of the 8 issues I had so far on this printer. Actually, an update during editing this video, I had another issue, or actually 2 issues with the Max 4. So the first one, I'll jump into it. Had the issue on this last print as well. But what is happening is heater bed is not expected at the rate, because something is wrong with the firmware or clipper. Printer is not working, so what we're going to do is the old reboot. Alright, after the restart, now the light is back on. So the last time, or the last print when this happened, after the other messages popped up, the IMC, IMU failed. So I think, and actually looking back, when I first unboxed this, and the first time I tried to print it, that message popped up. So it hasn't popped up for a while since then. And for print time, I have 7 days and 5 hours on this. Been trying to use it, and I think I only had it for about 20 days now, so I'll try to keep it busy. And another issue I had was this chain track getting underneath here and pinching itself. It's kind of angled down, it's drooping because of all the weight, and it got pinched between the carriage and the back wall. I had to print it because I heard this pretty awful noise and it came down, and it was because I got pinched. So that is another thing, another issue I've had is we're going to have to beef up this track to keep it from drooping so it can stay up in the track where it's supposed to be when it's all the way to the right hand side of the machine, so it doesn't get pinched anymore. So I've had some issues, printer hardware issues so far. So with all the issues I had so far, I think the printer is still decent for the amount it costs. Now I would wait, if you're looking to buy one, I would wait a few more months for hopefully QIDI to work out all these software bugs, because there's some, but if you don't mind having those, and overall it does print when it's supposed to print most of the time, and you just need a bigger build volume, this will work. But it's just not, if you're used to Bamboo or any other software like that where it's pretty much polished and ready to go, I would kind of hold back on this printer. But you do you. Printer wise, it does just fine. There's some things that could be tweaked on it to improve it, but overall it does what it's supposed to do. And really you get what you paid for, really what it comes down to. So don't expect this to be the golden nugget, because it's not, but it will print a print. But with that, I kind of will jump into the prints I have done so far. And all right, looking at multicolor here. So these are PETG, and so this one is actually one of the failed ones when it failed to switch the material in the box. So I lost a build plate, so that's a nice little test piece here. And then this other one here is actually a prototype for a potential vendor for these gas valves. So these are Big Willy's gas valve indicators, link in the description below, and then put a little button up in the top right corner, kind of video going over these. Actually, if you want to be a vendor of these gas valves and you would like to have your logo on those, hit me up and we can work out something. But so anyways, back to multicoloring. It takes about 3 minutes and 10 seconds to swap colors, and that is including from ending the color, purging, and then extruding on the prime tower and going back to the actual part and printing. It takes about 3 minutes and 10 seconds for each color change. But yeah, overall, it blends pretty dang good. So no issues with multicoloring so far. This is pretty much the extent of multicoloring I do. Besides that, I really just use the box for switching filaments when I run out. So, and in this case it didn't work, yeah, so that is kind of multicoloring. Looking at our gas valve indicators, and I actually have a couple test pieces over here. This is one of the gas valves that it can fit on. So my model just got finished. This is nylon 6 carbon fiber, I should say PA6 carbon fiber. And first impressions overall, it was successful. Yeah, let's pop this off the build plate and see what it looks like. All right, took it off the build plate, came off the build plate pretty easy. I did put glue down on the PEI sheet, just in case, to give it a sacrificial layer to make it easier to come off and make it stick better. Yeah, overall I didn't have any warping issues off the build plate, it looks like. Like I said, this is PA6 carbon fiber, and so on QIDI there is no setting, no default filament setting for PA6 carbon fiber. There is for the PA12 carbon fiber. So what I had to do in order to print this is I took a copy of that PA12, and then I did a Google search, found someone that gave recommended settings for that PA6, and I basically took those settings and put it into the PA12 default settings, changed a couple parameters, saved it, and I still had the setting as it was PA12, because in order to use the box, there is no PA6 setting on the box on the printer. So on the QIDI box, I said that was PA12. So then it allowed me to use the profile that I sliced it as, because the slicer thought it was PA12 and the box thought it was PA12, but in reality, it was PA6 settings. So that's what I had to do in order to print this. And the settings I just found online and copy and pasted it. So there is more tuning that I can do to make this better. But overall, for just really just sending it, printed pretty dang good, I gotta say. The overhangs, I had support material. I had to cut or scrape some of it off. I could tune the Z offset, could be increased a little bit more for the trees to help remove easier, and then the retraction looks like can be increased a little bit or decreased a little bit or increased more, whatever which way it is to this on the Z seam, because I'm assuming that's the Z seam. But yeah, overall, I gotta say, I do. So I used the chamber, had it set at 55 Celsius, and then when I was printing it in the box, the filament from the box, I had the temperature setting at 45. So it was heating the filament as it was printing. General idea of how big this is, it's roughly 12 inches. And on my bamboo, I had to break this up into 2 different pieces. Now this is for my 58 build. This holds the engine computer inside the engine bay. So I still have to post-process a little bit more and then anneal it. But yeah, so this is just straight off the printer. Now I gotta say, this was attempt number 2. This is attempt number 1. I started the print, walked away, and came back, and there was an error after the first layer. The error was it couldn't feed the material into the nozzle anymore. And the reason why, got a print going, but the reason why is this Bowden tube likes to get pinched right back where it goes into the chain link. So I taped that back up, taped the Bowden tube up so it couldn't slide out of the printer and get pinched anymore, and then I hit resume, and then I came back and somehow it jumped cogs, or when it paused it lost where it was, so everything got off shifted. So then I had to pause this, cancel this print, and start that other one. So, and then here's a custom part for a customer of mine. This is PETG carbon fiber, and overall it printed pretty dang good. Really no issues. I had the overhang it printed was at 45 degrees because carbon fiber PETG. But yeah, overall it again, black's kind of hard to show, but looks pretty dang good. So with that, that's all I have for this episode. Stay tuned for eventually more updates on this printer and kind of my more feedback and my regular viewers. I will have a new video out on the tractor restoration. along with some updates on that 58 project that I'm working on. And then lastly, this summer, I'm hoping to get back to that Subaru Brat and get that running and driving. So stay tuned for more things to come.
Continue once,
Big Willy out.
and then how I know it's starting is looking at the temperature on the tool head. Image doesn't switch right away, so it still says continued even though it is going. So you kind of just have to believe it's working right now. Don't touch it again because you can just look at the tool head and it's starting to go. So it's a little laggy on the swapping between continue and pause. And then the printing progress, oh there we go, it changed. I know the printing progress on the screen, it's always wrong. Most of the time it always says 0 even though it still has like an hour left. So that is incorrect normally. On the app it's somewhat fine.